Microphones have gotten so affordable lately that it's honestly super exciting to see that there's so many options out there that are under $100. And a lot of this segment is covered by, I guess you can say, micro brands. And that kind of makes me skeptical because are these microphones actually any good? Well, recently, Fifine, and yes, that is the correct way to say the name of this company, reached out to me with the K688. And honestly, I'm pretty impressed. Okay, so first off, Fifine did send this microphone over to me for review. They didn't pay me, nor did they tell me to say anything specific, so I'm just gonna give you guys my honest opinion like always. My contact over at Fifine did specifically say that is how you pronounce the name of this company, Fine. I don't know how this becomes this, but you know, that's just the way it is. So this is a dynamic microphone with an XLR and a USB-C combo jack. It's a nice little budget microphone that makes for a very good streaming microphone. It makes for a very good broadcast or a podcast microphone, or you can also use it for content creation as well. What comes in the box is the microphone, obviously, with the shock mount and also the windscreen already attached. You get a USB-A to USB-C cable to plug into the computer. You have a 3/8 to 5/8 adapter, and you also have the super important owner's manual. Looking at the body of the microphone, obviously we can see that there is a strong influence from a certain microphone that we all know and love out there. Yes, this is clearly inspired by that microphone. But I mean, you know, that microphone is obviously a very popular microphone and a very good microphone, so the fact that they grabbed inspiration from that is, you know, is not a bad thing, right? Okay, looking around the microphone, the first thing that we have to mention is that this is a combo jack microphone, which means that it accepts both USB-C and XLR cable for the microphone input, which is super amazing because there's a lot of options for affordable microphones out there, but not a lot of options for microphones with combo jacks that are also affordable. While we're looking at the back of the microphone, we can also see that the headphone jack for monitoring is here as well. The headphone volume is here as well, and also the microphone gain knob is also on the back of the microphone. For these three things, it's only applicable to the USB-C aspect of this microphone. When you plug it in through XLR, all of that is controlled and plugged in through the audio interface or the mixer that you're using. On the top of the microphone, we can also see that there is a button for mute. This button is touch capacitive, which is great because when you want to mute yourself, you're not going to hear that button click whenever you mute. It's not going to be like click, click, click. You know, that's very distracting and very obvious. This is a silent mute button, which is fantastic if you need to sneeze or if you need to, I don't know, go to the bathroom and you don't want people to hear you taking a leak. On the body of the microphone, you can also see that the shock mount is pretty much permanently attached to it. It is pretty much screwed down and bolted onto the microphone itself. You can take it off with a screwdriver, obviously, but you probably need to take these elastics on the shock mount off before you can actually get to it with a screwdriver, because there's actually a pretty tight little space in here and probably hard to get a screwdriver into there. But you can clearly see that they want you to use this microphone with this particular shock mount. It overall completes the look of this microphone. And I just noticed that this blends into the black here. I'm gonna do this. This is better. Why didn't I do that earlier? I think by far the most impressive aspect of this microphone is this pop filter windscreen right here. This is the most softest, the most plushest, the best feeling windscreen I have ever felt in my entire life. I don't have an SM7B, so I don't know exactly if it feels the same on that or not, but this feels super soft. It feels like a fleece sweater. It feels amazing. And then with the windscreen off, we can see the capsule of the microphone. Again, it looks very similar to the SM7B, even the way that the grill is a little bit separated from the capsule. Again, it resembles the design of the SM7B by a lot. I don't know if the windscreen of the SM7B will work for this or not, but it certainly does look very similar. Price-wise, this costs 80 Freedom dollars, and over here in Canada, unfortunately, we always have to pay a premium. It costs $120 Canadian. And also something that I just noticed is that they also have a Red Dot Award from last year as well. Very cool. Color-wise, they come in black, white, and pink as well, which is very welcoming because I know there's a lot of female friends out there that have a pink streaming setup, and there's honestly not a lot of mics out there that comes in pink, so this is a good option. Okay, so I have transported the microphone over to this boom arm through the power of magic, or should I say editing, and we're gonna listen to how this microphone sounds. So right now I have it plugged into my Tascam DR100 Mark III. Now this is not a new recorder. This has been around for a little while now, and then I've used it for several years, and it's worked really well. And I've heard that this is basically one of those recorders that have very little self noise. So I like to use this for tests for stuff like this, just to get an idea, get an accurate interpretation of what the microphone actually sounds like. So for this part of the video, I'm going to try to not make this too flashy or anything. I'm just going to keep this part of the video very raw. I'm not going to put any music on there. There's going to be no processing. It's just going to be how the mic actually sounds. So you guys can hear exactly how this mic sounds and if it works well or not for you. So something that I've said previously in the past regarding microphones is that they are genuinely this magical thing that really does depend on how your voice sounds. So something that sounds good with my voice may not behave the same way with your voice. It really is something that complements the voice. So just because the microphone is inexpensive doesn't mean it sounds bad on some voices, but it might sound horrible on other voices, and vice versa with something that's very, very expensive as well. So I just want to say that this microphone, it has that SM7B sort of a vibe to it. It sounds dark, it sounds bassy, and it has that oomph to it. And you can clearly see that it's trying to go for that SM7B direction, even with the design of the microphone as well. So overall, I mean, I think I do like the sound of this microphone, especially on my voice. But again, like I said, your voice may vary. So one thing that I do want to, give me 1 second, okay? Oh, excuse me. Okay, so this is the Audio Technica ATR2100X or ATX2100R. I forget exactly how the name works, so I'll write it down right here. But the reason why I have this here and the reason why I want to compare these is that a lot of times when somebody asks me what should their first microphone be, if they want a microphone just for like Zoom or maybe like, you know, they're streaming with some friends and they just want to start a microphone. Nothing too expensive, something that works and works good. I always recommend this one. And the reason why is because it's very inexpensive and it's very user-friendly, and also it's great as a starter microphone. It has the mute button right here on the front, although this is a physical mute button, so you can hear the clicks whenever I mute it. This one is a silent one, as mentioned earlier. But the most important thing is that this has a combo XLR and USB-C mic jack, which is great because as somebody that's starting out, you will probably want the convenience of the USB-C. It's basically plug and play straight into the computer, and you don't really have to do anything or think about anything to get the mic working. But of course, later on, if you do decide to upgrade your setup, you can buy an audio interface or a mixer or a recorder, whatever the case might be, and then you can use the XLR jack on the microphone and get much better analog signal out of this microphone. It basically upgrades the setup without having to buy a new mic, and that is a valuable asset to have. There are other options out there, like there's one from Samsung, which is very similar to this, and also has a combo XLR and USB as well, but I believe that one uses a micro USB or a mini USB. One of those older ones. And honestly, we are way beyond that now. USB-C is the way to go, so let's not look at that microphone and just focus on something like this. There are other more expensive options out there as well. I believe Samsung has a Q9U that is also a combo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's also a combo jack. But that one is more expensive. I think Rode has one as well, the Rode Pod Mic USB-C or USB or something like that. Anyways, there are options out there, but some of them are more expensive. Some of them don't have the richest features, but this one is nice and affordable, right? So that's why I always recommend this one. I personally don't think that this microphone sounds great with my voice. I think this one is there's a lot of sibilance to it, especially with my voice. But overall, I think it still sounds pretty darn good. And like I said before, just because it doesn't sound good on my voice doesn't mean it doesn't sound good with your voice, right? But now I think I'm going to genuinely change my recommendation to this one over here. And mainly because I do think that this is a overall better microphone for not that much more money. Like, you know, this does go on sale pretty often and you can get it for a deal. And at that point, it's not that big of a difference, maybe like $20, $30 of a difference at most. And you can get a much better microphone that's much more suited for a recording, sort of like a, you know, like a home studio kind of a setting. Okay, so another mic that I want to compare this with is this one right here, which I feel like is only appropriate because this is the SM58, and I feel like this microphone is trying to be an SM7B. I don't have an SM7B, unfortunately, but I do have an SM58, and from what people always say, the SM58 is like the poor man's SM7B, just because it's like, 4 times less in terms of the cost. And the audio quality is very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it is very similar. And it's also, also made by Shure. So I can't really tell a difference between my left ear and my right ear and what I'm actually hearing, but I'll find out later on when I'm editing the video. But right now it's like they kind of mix together and it sounds like I don't know which one's which. But audio quality wise, I have been daily driving this Fifine microphone for the last 2 weeks, doing my regular recordings, doing voiceovers and whatnot. And I've been using this mic pretty extensively for the last 2 weeks through the XLR port into my Rodecaster. I do have some processing on it normally when I'm using it, so it does beef up the audio a little bit more. But overall, I think the audio that comes out of the Fifine is very rich and is it's very smooth. It does have that SM7B sort of vibe. It is dark, it is bassy, and it's very smooth to listen to. Granted, I'm not an audio engineer, so if you're talking about all the little minute fine details of how the audio sounds on it, I probably can't be the one to answer those questions. But I feel like if you're somebody that's looking for those specific details, in a microphone, this is probably not your first option anyways. You're probably looking at something that is like 3-4 times the price. So, but overall, I think like for the most people out there that are just using this as a first microphone or maybe even a second microphone, whatever the case might be, or just want to upgrade their setup from their some USB mic or maybe a Blue Yeti, some other microphone over to something that's a little bit higher end, higher quality, this is a good option to get because I personally think that this sounds really rich. Normally, I use a Rode what's it called? Rodecaster, Procaster. Rode has all these strange names. The Rode Procaster. Yes, that's the mic that I normally use as my daily driver mic. And I run that also into the Rodecaster with some processing. And, that mic is great. And I feel like when I hear the differences between that mic and this mic, it sounds pretty similar, and I don't really hear a major difference. There are some differences, but it's not huge. So the fact that this mic is comparable to that is great. And how do these two sound, right? Again, this is trying to be something like this, and this is trying to be something better than it. So how do these two sound? These two sound good? These two sound similar enough? Let's hope so. So as I mentioned, I've been using this microphone primarily as my daily driver for the past 2-ish weeks, give or take. And although it's a great sounding microphone, there are a few things that I do want to note that I've noticed while using this microphone. So first off is the noise rejection. So this shock mount, I feel like doesn't do a fantastic job in terms of shock rejection. If I were to tap the shock mount here or the boom arm, you can hear that resonance, right? It resonates through the audio. When I use my Rode Procaster, when I tap it or if I need to handle it or move it around, it does give me like a thump. It's like a thump, and then it cuts out immediately. But the idea here is that once it resonates, if it goes ding, then it makes it harder to cut out in post, right? Because if I do end up talking over that sort of reverb, then it's hard to cut that part out. And the last thing I do want to note is that the plosive rejection on this isn't the best. So if we go Peter Piper pecked a pecking duck, Peter Piper loves to eat pecking duck. Do you guys know what pecking duck is? If you guys don't know what pecking duck is, I encourage you to try it out because you are missing out. Pecking duck is like one of the most amazing things out there. So yeah, go try pecking duck. It is fantastic. So can you hear the plosives? Pecking duck, pecking duck, pecking duck. If I talk straight into it, you can definitely hear the plosives of the pecking duck. And I have instances during my usage of this microphone where I do hear, the mic pop whenever I say certain words, right? So one thing that I have to mentally keep in mind when I'm using this microphone is I always have to talk away from it, across from it, I should say. So through this way instead of through this way. As you do this, you're going to blow air straight into it, which gives you those plosives. When I talk this way, the P's are going to go past it and it's not going to be picked up by the microphone. So I always have to keep a mental reminder to always talk this way whenever I use this microphone. Can you double it up? Maybe you can double it up. You can't double it up. But maybe you can buy a bigger one and double it up if you want. But I feel like I said, this is sort of made to be used this way, right? Like this windscreen is pretty much integrated into the microphone. This shock mount is integrated into this microphone. So if you don't use it the way it's intended, I feel like you're losing that visual integrity of this beautiful microphone. So if you're going to be using this mic as like a secondary mic to mic up a guest for a podcast, for example, I would say that this is probably not the best choice, because I feel like if there is going to be a guest that isn't too familiar with using microphones, they might like to fondle with it and move it around and shift things back and forth, and you're going to be picking up a lot of those sounds. And they probably will be talking straight into like this and saying pecking duck all day, and you're going to be getting a lot of that plosive. So I would say if you're using it and you're aware of this stuff and you know how to use your mic technique properly and talk away from it, it'll be fine. But if your guest is using it, they might not have that awareness, and so therefore it might ruin your audio. Okay, so last but not least, I want to test out the USB-C portion of this microphone. So right now I have it plugged into my computer. Basically, I am listening and monitoring myself through the back of the microphone as well. So this is where all of the knobs and all the buttons on this microphone comes in. So you can mute the microphone. So right now the microphone is lit up green on the button right here. If I hit it right now, so as I turn that back on, you can hear me again. And don't worry about what I said. It was nothing bad. But now you can use the knobs on the back to adjust the volume of the headphones and also the gain of the microphone. If I turn the gain down, then you can also not hear me very well. I haven't used the USB side of this microphone that much. I've primarily been using the XLR side of it. So this is pretty much my first time listening to the microphone through USB-C. One thing that I do notice is that the headphone jack, the output that's coming from the headphone jack, isn't really that loud in my headphones. It could be because these headphones are... Is it high impedance or low impedance? I can't remember which one it was, but the one that requires more drive to run the headphones. It could be the reason why, but at the same time, like these are just consumer grade headphones. I don't see how that could be a problem. But yeah, I mean, volume wise, when I'm looking at the levels in the computer, it does look like even sometimes it's peaking, right? Like if this is actually quite hot, I would want to turn the gain down just a little bit just to have a safer track. But when I'm talking too loud, it does look like it's about to peak. So yeah, just keep that in mind that your recording sounds fine, but the headphones may potentially sound like it's really quiet. So you might run to the issue where you're like, oh, why isn't this why is this so quiet? You want to turn it up, but then you might be clipping your microphone. So something to look out for. And those are my thoughts on the Fifine K688 dynamic XLR and USB microphone. Thank you to the fine folks at Fifine for sending the mic over. If you guys agree with me, perfect. Give me a like, subscribe. If you guys disagree with me, that's okay as well. Let me know why in the comments below. Okay, bye.